I wanted to give just a short screencast. Short is an operative word, right? I think it might be 7 or 8 minutes, just on these various ethical theories, because I kind of reiterate what I said in lesson number 1. I know some of these things can be a little dry for people, are not the most exciting things to learn in the world, but they're so important, especially in light of what's happening in the world today and the ever-changing nature of healthcare as we know it, and just the continued, I think, just really exciting times, I think, in terms of being a physical therapist assistant and your role in supporting the PT and providing in the provision of patient care. That's only a role that I think is going to continue to develop, and within that role you just have to make real sound decision making in order to provide the best care for your patients, and as well as to uphold your social contract with the patient as being a licensed professional. So I think it's good to know these different types of ethics. This course does satisfy some of the humanities credits that some people need, so I think it's important to call some of these out. So essentially a duty ethics is in light we have our role is we have a duty to really focus on to truly get our patients back to the fullest potential. That's our duty. It's really a calling, I would say, for some people. Calling meaning that it really is a way of life that really shapes who they are as individuals. I really enjoy going out and meeting past graduates and seeing what they're up to, and just really seeing this call to action that is just a fiber of their being as PTAs, and this work as being so much more than a job, but truly as a calling. Religious ethics certainly has an influence on people. It may be not as strong in your generation as it was in prior generations, where people were more sectarian. I certainly see that shifting a bit, where people are more non-sectarian, identify more as spiritual and less as religious. But it sure certainly shapes the lives of people, and it may be the case that it shaped your own life, that ever since you've been a child, or because of a conversion experience, your religious beliefs really drive much of what you do, or part of what you do. Certainly taking some strong having philosophy backgrounds that were influenced by religion can help influence a person's ethics. And where this comes into play in physical therapy is that kind of the drive, I think, for in some religious traditions to uphold the dignity of the human person, and to really strive for the fullness and richness of human life in whatever its form. And I do think there's humanistic characteristics of having religious ethics, but you could also have some very strong humanistic characteristics and not be religious. I think that really needs to be called out. Humanists are by definition people who really strive to uphold human dignity, and certain religious traditions have that as well. And there's certain, I think it's important to know these things, because you may be working for companies that may have religious missions, and you may work closely with religious people who are chaplains, and therapists that are deeply religious. I've had opportunities to work with therapists that have been quite the spectrum, from being Orthodox Jewish to observant Muslims to very strong Christians who wear very visible crosses when they work, and I've had opportunities to work with nuns too in some of the Catholic hospitals and organizations that I've worked with. So it's important to know kind of what drives people and what helps form who they are. Virtue ethics is just, I think it truly is about courage and justice, to really do the right thing, and to stand up for your patients, and to stand up when things are wrong, and to do so in an artful way to really strive for the betterment of patient care and also to improve the workplace conditions where care takes place. So those are just some examples of influences that can influence people's ethical decisions, as well as choices that people make. And I've given a few examples here next about billing. And then just kind of a really kind of look at how these theories and our ethics can really serve as restraints, can really be a good thing in terms of our actions at work and how we interact with people and how we provide care. I think these are a very good thing. And I think it's also just can help create that, again, that pause of not just kind of jumping and being part of a group think. In other words, to be able to say, this really doesn't feel kind of right, and be able to have that sustained action to reflect on what's happening within the workplace that may seem wrong. One thing I kind of think about too is just, our job market tends to be kind of fluctuating and changing, and there may be situations where whole departments get laid off, and we don't want to talk about that, but I mean, look at COVID-19, where outpatient practices are being temporarily shut down, and some of the other things that are happening with changes in reimbursement of some areas of practice, such as skilled nursing, taking a hit, and really kind of questioning how some of these decisions that are being made very quickly, if you have influence, to really jump in and to raise some questions, because I really think that sometimes decisions are made quickly without a lot of input, and you should be able to have that courage and have that the ability to speak up and and you got to select your battles for sure, but I think if you don't, decisions will be made about you that if you don't speak up, the decision may be made, and it may be too late to talk about it. And these are things as about being able to perhaps work a changed work schedule. If you're looking for a reduction of hours, to volunteer, to float to other clinics, and to be proactive versus reactive. And you have to, there is a decision being made there, right? Because, if you're going to float around, float meaning to different clinics, you're going to be less likely to be with the patients that you know. So it's a risk, right? It's unsettling, but it's an ethical choice because you're making a decision. You have two not great decisions. You can either, one, stay where you're at and not float and just see your workload shrink, and see less patients and work less hours, or float, or probably get more hours, but are working under this uncertainty of working with different PTs and directors of rehab that you haven't worked with before. So it really is a dilemma. Which one do I choose? And I would argue that I think neither choice is great, but if this comes down to being able to provide support for yourself and your family, it's probably your best interest in that ethical dilemma to float. So that's just kind of a real-life introduction. You'll have more opportunities to look at some other frameworks, guides to help you in decision-making throughout this lesson builder.